heart. Indeed, and I think you've made your intentions clear in that regard. Connor gestured with his head to the wild dragons, who'd almost tamed themselves in favor of following the young red-haired WarMage and her dragon familiar into whatever came next. Those closest to the huge, curved gray dome of the Keeper's records vault shifted and stretched their wings. They rose from where they'd lowered onto their bellies in the grass and stepped calmly away from each other to create a path across the valley. 3 of the Keeper monks in their burnt orange robes walked down that path, their hands folded in front of them and hidden within their thick draped sleeves. The bald monks smiled and nodded at the wild dragons, who watched them curiously, although the men didn't reach out and try to touch them like they'd done immediately with Leander and Callista. Okay, so I have the stone, Raven muttered as she watched the Keepers approach. But those monks look like they've already trained the wild dragons too. I told you, Leander responded with a low rumble. The monks are quiet and don't ask anything of a dragon. Yeah, I know, that's exactly why you like them. She smirked at her familiar as the monks stopped in front of her and Connor. All 3 bowed low together before they looked at the 2 mages and the large red dragon. The man in the middle tilted his head and held her gaze. What you have started now, young mage, cannot be stopped until it is finished. She tightened her hold on the origin seed. The Keepers don't want it. That was Randall, and he won't come for this anymore. Not for a while. I know. She nodded at the monk and took a deep breath. And I will finish it, even if it wasn't the only choice I have. Nothing is ever the only choice. The monk on the left gave her such a broad smile that his eyes crinkled into narrow slits that almost made them look completely closed. But some are better than others. And some of us make better choices for all the wrong reasons. The third monk added, and gestured behind him and past the waiting wild dragons at the records vault. The Seeker knew this beneath his fear, and he chose unwisely. Raven glanced at the curved dome that looked like a giant, perfectly smooth boulder. How is he? Randall, I mean. The middle monk bowed his head. He will recover in time. Always in time, yes? Connor cleared his throat and frowned at the records vault. I think the man's spent too much time here already. And he will spend a little more. The smiling, crinkly-eyed monk nodded vigorously. We will care for him until he is strong enough to make better decisions, yes? Until he can understand the true consequences of his straying from the path. What path? Raven asked. His own. She nodded and licked her lips. Sorry about the mess in your records vault. That wasn't part of the plan at all. None of this was part of the plan, but we're working with what we have now, aren't we? The monks looked at each other and burst into high-pitched laughter. They waved her apology off with a flutter of hands that swished their robes. Leander narrowed his eyes and lowered his head to watch the Keeper's hysterics warily. Connor raised an eyebrow and waited with his granddaughter for an explanation. Why is that funny? She asked. Do you think we do not have the means to set a minor spill such as that right? The monk who stood directly in front of her grinned, and his dark eyes sparkled. Young mage, do not worry yourself with what has been done in our vaults. The Keeper on the right chuckled again, grinned with honest reassurance, and shook his head. We can repair far more than that. Connor narrowed his eyes. How quickly? Oh, as quickly as we like. The monk on the left raised his hand. His orange sleeve slid around his skinny wrist, and he snapped his fingers. A bright light flashed, and the mirror of it flared inside the records vault, muted by the domed walls that didn't exactly act like walls at all. Raven's eyes widened. You have magic too? Yes, of course, young mage. How else would we maintain this valley as it has been since the beginning? The monks shared a round of laughter again. Behind them, the wild dragons lost their interest in the conversation for the moment and moved away from the mages and their Keeper hosts. Wait.